Hi there, it's Dr. Mike Jones. I'm the Managing Director of Impact Minerals, and we are a junior explorer and project developer listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, and we manage a fairly extensive portfolio of projects in the eastern states of Australia and also in Western Australia, which is our hometown, and I'm speaking to you from Perth today.
Mike, good to have you on the show with Crux. First time I've spoken to you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, it is indeed, and nice to meet you too, Merlin.
One of the first things I did, Mike, when I was researching for this interview was I opened up your presentation to see, to learn about the company, and I was very struck by the title, which was what was it? A roll of the dice for the next great discovery, or something like that. It was a really interesting analogy. I wonder, could you give us kind of a bit of background about that very first kind of title page of your presentation?
That's right. From early this year. Yeah, look, I think it's always good to remind people who invest in our sector that a company like Impact Minerals, which was set up to find a world-class discovery, is a company that's taking on one of the greatest risks in the mining industry. We're trying to find something that's going to make, like a big material difference to people in their investments in impact by finding a world-class ore body. That's what we're designed to do. And they're not found very often. And so the risk involved is extreme. And I always get a little bit amused when people sort of call me up and they sort of say, oh, I'm investing in impact minerals. And really, it's not an investment as such. It's a speculative investment. And we really need to sort of make sure that people are aware of that. If you're going to put money into a company like Impact, it's money that you should be able to afford to lose, because 9.5 times out of 10, we're not going to come in with the goods. And so really the theme that I had, which was, a roll of the dice for a world-class discovery, it is like that. And we have a phrase here in Australia, it's a one Powerball and I'm out of here, which is like the lottery. And it's the same with the exploration, one drill hole and I'm out of here. But finding that drill hole and getting it in the right place is exceptionally difficult. And so it's important when people invest in our company that they recognise that. It's
very refreshing to hear a managing director or CEO talking with such frankness about the success rates of exploration. Have you ever come across Rolf Forster, who's a consultant in the Australian industry?
No.
He's a super guy. I did an interview with him a couple of months ago, and he was saying that the data suggests that the success rate of drilling targets in Canada and Australia for the last 10 years is about 1 in 2,700. Yeah. And then obviously within that, only 10 really make it into be a kind of a spectacular discovery. So the odds are, 1 in 27,000 that you're going to make a commercial discovery, which are, it's like going to Las Vegas in that sense, in the odds are stacked against you. However, you and I know that what you do as exploration geologists is you try to mitigate those odds as best you can, and you try to reduce your risks and spread your risks, and that of course leads me straight on to there are two things in your presentation which struck me. One is you're a project generator, and what that means to me is that you can generate lots of targets at low cost and then do low cost work on them, take them up the value chain, and hopefully bring people into share the financial risk and the financial burden. And then the other thing that really struck me about your presentation was this kind of discovery of your secret sauce, the ratio analysis. So, is that fair to say that you think that ratio analysis or your geochemical interpretation is going to give you an edge on exploration?
Yeah, look, certainly for our Broken Hill project, for Platinum Group exploration, which is what the ratio is all about. Yeah, we've been quite astonished at really how good and how predictive that ratio has been. And really, that's a sign of the thing that perhaps Impact is recognised for. I mean, I'd like to think we're recognised for our technical excellence. We do have, some very good geologists. Obviously, I lead the team, but we've done some very good work, because in terms of trying to reduce the risk, it is a case nowadays where you really do have to take quite a scientific approach to what you're doing. And one of the big changes in the industry over the last 10 years that I've seen is that it's now a lot easier and a lot cheaper to generate a significant amount of data. In fact, we can generate data, at a far greater rate than any of us are capable of doing, and that's why we're seeing machine learning coming to the fore now in the industry. And so we've always been recognised, I think, for that technical excellence, and this ratio has sort of been a bit of a breakthrough for us. And it also underlies everything that we do. We have a philosophy here, and and the phrase that we use is, you do the proper work properly. Because if you cut back on things, or don't drill enough holes, or don't do the right interpretation work, etc., you will end up falling over, well before the final hurdle. And so that's really how we've approached everything that we've done in the time we've been listed.
A couple of things. Can I follow up on? Can you tell me a bit more about the scientific and kind of the geological pedigree of your team, and how that's built up over the years?
Yeah, look, we've had obviously people come and go over the years, but I mean, I'm obviously the technical leader, PhD in gold mineralisation and structural geology, and then I've worked as a consultant, for many years. But my training was in Western Mining, and which was a very successful mid-tier company here in Australia. Many people would have heard of them. They were taken over by BHP, and they were phenomenally successful in terms of defining new mines. And so a lot of the things that I was taught, and I was in their project generation team, have flowed through. And there are many of us that are ex-WMC graduates, who've gone on to, to do great things and discover many deposits. And so one of the big things is that, if I'm not going off track slightly, is that if you look at our portfolio, which you mentioned, it's very quite large, and we've got ground. What we've done is peg and stake significant ground holdings in very prospective parts of the country, that have already demonstrably had, significant mineralisation there. And what that tells you is that deep down in the Earth's crust, there's some fundamental things that have gone on that have allowed that part of the crust to be more prospective, have more mines, have more copper, more gold, or whatever it is in that particular area. So if you can get ground in those zones, then you're doing very well. You've already reduced your risk because you've already identified a particularly fertile part of the crust. So that's one of the philosophies that underlies, what we've been doing, and explain some of the life holdings.
Remind me, where did you do your PhD?
At the Royal School of Mines, Imperial College in London.
Fine.
Sorry, where did you do your masters, Merlin? If I can just ask.
It just so happened to be at the Royal School of Mines. And I didn't actually know that you had done your PhD there, but good to hear.
So sorry, just going back to the team. So I have a junior geologist who we're training, and then my exploration manager, 10 years experience, working with me. And he certainly doesn't have a master's, but he's certainly at a master's level. But over the years, we've had some very good geologists working for us, and the alumni from Impact Minerals. We've got the discovery manager of Anglo American Australasia. His first job was with us, and one of BHP's top structural geologists who worked for us for 5 years, and then went to join them. So we've been able to attract some really good talent, over the years. And but as times and cycles come and go, and certainly. So right now we've got a very small team, but look, we're pretty driven, and things are moving along pretty quickly.
And you also mentioned that the ability to create data has increased. Are you talking about the reduced cost of geochemical assays as a principal one?
Very much so. Yeah. Geochemical data in particular. I mean, when I was a young geologist, if you knew, what a phase diagram was, or if you did an alteration diagram, you were like 1 in 100. At the most, but people like Scott Halley, the well-known consultants in the industry, pioneered the use of multi-element data to track alteration systems, and it's really brought some of these dying arts back to the forefront. And the same in particular, say with structural geology. Structural geology was just a field for boffins and people who could understand maths. But now, with the ease of which we can, collect structural data, and you don't have to worry about alpha beta angles. It's almost done automatically, and put into Leapfrog, and bam, you've got this sort of picture already. And so a lot of these dying skills have suddenly been brought to the fore by the ability to collect data so easily. It's great.
When I was working for Rio Tinto, we would only ever assay for gold if you're on a gold project, or copper and maybe zinc if you're on a copper project, because the cost of your geochemical assay was so high. But now it's kind of regular to do multi-element analysis. So what do you do? Do you do 36-element ICP, or do you
Yeah, in fact, more so. Now, a lot of the data's, you never use, but you certainly see a lot more, correlations coming through. But it's when you don't do it, you suddenly realise, oh, I wish I had that data, and and there it is. I mean, you're still looking for the core commodities, obviously, but the alteration system, depending on what you're looking for, is very much a part of it, and that's really what helped lead to our ratio for the PGMs. We just had a large data set, and we were able to sort of run the numbers and come up with this this relationship between a set of metals and elements that you can measure with a handheld XRF instrument, which is directly proportional to the PGE grade, and that's really an exceptional breakthrough for us.
And that kind of the whole rock forming elements. It's the mass spectrometer, the handheld XRF gun is really good at picking up the aluminium and the silica and all of that kind of stuff, but less good at picking up the kind of the 1 ppms or the 0.1s of the ppms, the PPB elements, the precious metals.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So are you being led by a specific ratio of alteration, kind of minor elements, which gives you the lead as the vector to the precious metals?
Yeah, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of major and minor, and mixture of major and minor elements. And look, we were just playing around with the numbers, and we thought, oh, this is pretty interesting. And oh, look, this is this has come out. And I think it's obviously a function of the magmatic system that we're dealing with, and these rocks are fairly unique in Broken Hill, worldwide, because they carry exceptional grades of all 6 PGMs. In the 1 to sort of 5 gram level, and to get all 6 PGMs, platinum, palladium, rhodium, iridium, ruthenium, and osmium together, is exceptionally rare, and we're getting them in grams. So there's something very special about those rocks. So and that's what attracted me to the project in the first place. Now, it could be just a geological curiosity, but we've got some massive sulfide. We'll just have it down a little bit here. This is probably some of the most valuable ore in Australia, because that's running 15% combined nickel and copper, and an ounce of PGEs of the platinum and palladium, 1.5 grams of gold, 1.5 ounces of silver, 0.16% cobalt, and a gram to 5 grams of the rare PGEs. So if we can, now we only found 60 centimeters of that, but if we can find something that's only 2 million tons of that, we are home and host. So.
And that is over in the Broken Hill.
That's in the Broken Hill, yeah.
And you're familiar with the work that Jamie Wilkinson and Loads and Codes are doing on green rock vectoring in porphyries. What they've done is that they can apply it to any porphyry system, any alteration system globally. I mean, they have their own signatures, and they have their own kind of area in the data set, their own set of fingerprints. Do you think you can apply what you've learned in Broken Hill? I mean, you're now looking in Western Australia for the Julimar project, which is a kind of a very similar signature of metals. It's perhaps not in exact ratios, but it's nickel, it's PGEs. Right. Can you bring that across to the West Coast?
Yeah, look, I think we can, and we haven't found enough PGEs yet to sort of demonstrate that that our ratio might work there. But what we've been working on the last sort of 6 months with all the massive data that we've got was trying to find another ratio that might work, that has a larger, like a larger footprint, if you like. So what we did with the handheld instrument, we were able to basically move the drill rig backwards and forwards, looking for PGEs, like on a 10 metre to 50 metre scale, and looking for the ratio of the particular horizon, which is mineralised, and looking for the areas where the ratio was increasing, or decreasing, and moving the rig, particularly. And we nailed, a metre at a metre at 22 grams PGEs and 1%, 3% nickel and 1% copper in the highest ratio, in an area that no one in 40 years of exploration had been able to put together a coherent picture of the mineralisation. So we sort of cracked the whole thing wide open.
Crack the code.
Crack the code. So now we identified that this mineralisation was in a channel, which is very much like the nickel channels that you get at Kambalda, which is one of the world's famous nickel places. But it required drilling at very close spacing. Now we've got in total between the two main prospects, sort of 16, 17 kilometres of trend that we can't drill at 25-metre intervals. It's crazy. So we've been working on another sort of broader ratio, which that saying anything is more major elements, to see if we can use that as a first footprint. And I think we've actually done that quite recently. We haven't sort of announced anything. It's not. I mean, whether it's material, it's not really material as such. But at the appropriate time, we'll be able to sort of say, look, we've identified something else, so we can go and drill at a much larger spacing, and then work out which are the more fertile parts of that whole 9-kilometre trend before having to go back in.
Well, it is important, and it's because you've got to find some way of honing in your target. Because a big trend, a small company, small budget, you've got to try and find, if you can use anything to reduce those historic exploration odds from 1 in 2,700 to something much lower, then it's to your favor and to the benefit of the shareholders. You immediately get me started thinking about kind of budgets and run room and small companies. When I look at your share price over the long term, you obviously came through the 2007 to 2011 boom, and then we've had, like every other exploration company, 99% value destruction, and you've got kind of quite a blocky share price. You're not trading very much at the moment, but you've got a long shareholder register. Can you just talk a little bit about the evolution of the capital structure, please?
Yeah, no, sure. So listed in 2006, I remember the peak. We put out some uranium soil samples and we hit 33 cents. And in 2007, not long after listing, and of course, that's right. I thought, here we go. I'm going to be a millionaire by Christmas. And of course, it was downhill from there on because GFC, that was just everyone getting beaten around the head. And then obviously, coming into all the money that was pumped in to rescue the world's economy, then had a couple of good years. And then the big thing that hit us was the Fukushima disaster. We had if you're interested in a quick anecdote, it's never over until the ink is dry. On a Friday afternoon, we had a $10 million deal in place on some big ground holdings, again, that we got in Botswana around a known uranium deposit. We had all the ground around it. So it was a $10 million deal for 50% of the company, 50% of the project. Fantastic. Shook hands. And so if you'd have told me that, by Monday morning there'd been an earthquake off the coast of Japan that, flooded a nuclear reactor, and it was the end of the nuclear industry for a while, you couldn't put odds on it. So so that was obviously the wind in our sails. So we dropped then from 10 cents through to 6 and 4, and then of course we hit the downturn in 2012 right through to 16, 17. But what we did during that period, we actually picked up a failed float, which actually has the Broken Hill project and also our Commonwealth project in it, both in the eastern states. And the Commonwealth project is in the Lachlan Fold Belt. We have a small resource there, a VMS. Again, it's quite eclectic. There's only one of them in Australia, but it is identical to the Eskay Creek project in British Columbia, which is one of the world's great ore bodies. And we have the same minerals, the same alteration, but it's a difficult thing to drill out. So we have been looking for a partner for that. So we did that, and that kept us alive because with all of these projects have got high grades associated with them.
Did you have to do some consulting from 2014 to 2017 just to keep the lights on?
No. We raised money all the way through, and we chose our thing. We had joint venture partner Andrew Forrest invested in the company for a short period of time when he first was investing in junior companies. His whole strategy has changed since then. And so they put money into the company. So we've always been able to attract money. We've never not been able to raise money. And that comes down to the story that we sell, which is, look, we've got these great projects. We've got great technical reasons that these things should turn into major ore bodies. And we found a number of small things. We just haven't had that, that bit of serendipity that you need to, to find the big one. So, we just got to keep drilling.
And your last quarterly cash figure was 2.2 million Aussie. You've been drilling since then, so you're probably looking to raise soon. I mean, just
No, we will be drilling. So we haven't drilled since the last quarterly, but 2.2. So we'll be drilling in about a month's time here on our West Australian project on Dunia. So when I last interviewed Matthew, he was saying, you're kind of all over the place. And but one of the things that we have been working on this year is that we are rationalising our large portfolio that you mentioned, and we are pivoting from the eastern states to back to WA, because we can add, as you mentioned, a lot of value in a short period of time to some of the grassroots projects. So we have been looking for partners, or to do deals on our eastern state strategy. We did a cheap deal on our Clonal project in a company called Australasian Gold, 10 cents in pre-IPO. We did 1 million shares at 10 cents, and they actually went to 88 cents. They've come back a bit since then, but we are escrowed, so that was a great deal for us. We've got another investment in a float coming out on our Commonwealth project, but that we've still got a huge ground holding there we're trying to do something with. And we are on the verge of a potential joint venture on one of our other major projects. Can't say too much about it because it looks like it might be done, but it's never over, as I've said, until the ink is dry. I don't know what's going to happen over the weekend. So I think in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to demonstrate to people, look, we've actually had activity on our commercial activity on our big portfolio, which is then going to allow us to get focused on WA, and we should be drilling hopefully by the end of this month.
Because the model of a project generator is to generate targets and then to get other people to fund the more expensive downstream or later stage exploration work.
It is, but if I can just say, one of the things about Impact though is that we're here for the big win. And so you talked about the porphyry copper. So we drilled our absolute porphyry copper target early this year, and it was one of the best set of looking anomalies that I'd seen in terms of combined geochemistry and geophysics. It's like it was a no-brainer that really we should drill it, rather than sort of bring a partner in. It was like, look, we're here for the big win. Let's go and drill it. Didn't pan out, and we did all that alteration work that we talk about. And we probably have a target that was about 1.5 kilometres down, but you couldn't predict that before we started. So that's the name of the game. But we gave it a go, and that's what people give us the money for. I don't go and say, look, you're going to give us this money for this drill program because we're going to drill it. We're not going to bring a person in, and that's the support that I've had over the years. Now if we drill the best one, it's not there, then great. We can kind of look then for a partner to kind of come in and and they might see something that we haven't, and that's been the case with this potential joint venture that we've got.
Well, equally, exploration takes persistence. And a small company can drill the first or the best anomaly, but it generates data and it generates more targets and it increases your understanding. But a small company might not be able to fund that.
That's right.
Whereas there's that old adage that discovery is made by the 7th company over the ground, not the first company.
Yeah,
it's not always the case, and good science can lead you there. But there's a reason why the bigger companies invest in kind of broader scale explorations, because they don't expect everybody to get a quick win on the first testing the first target.
No, that's right. If you just talk about persistence, let me just share this screen quickly, because I often show this slide. There we go. This is when I first started in the game, and you just want to make sure that this isn't you before you give it up.
So you're going to be drilling in the West. So what do we look out for? When I look at Impact, small company, you've very succinctly highlighted the kind of investor that you need, which is someone who's willing to take a bet on your scientific expertise and the exploration potential, but it shouldn't be people's life savings. They shouldn't need for Impact to be a winner in order to retire. There's a different strategy for your pension. This is your fund money, because you're backing you, Dr. Mike Jones, to make that discovery. What can we see? What would you view as being success in the next few months that we can keep an eye out on, in addition to what you've alluded to, which is a joint venture deal, where the ink isn't dry yet, but you hope that it's going to be coming soon?
Yeah. So the obviously with the potential joint venture, there'll be significant money spent on one of our projects, and who knows when that will come to fruition. They'll be managing that that expenditure. But on our Dunia project, look, it's a big gold bismuth anomaly. We've got about a 3,000 meter drill program lined up.
And that's where's Dunia?
Sorry, that's in Western Australia. So part of our pivot from the eastern states to West Australia. And we've had this target sort of drill ready for a little while now, but obviously getting rigs has been hard. But we've now secured one, and we're ready to go. So that's going to be a fairly straightforward test of the anomaly. It's a no-brainer. Walk up, drill it, and then see where we go from there. It's a very unusual. It's a different type of metal assemblage. But it is probably quite similar to a reasonable discovery that was made again earlier this year called the Burns discovery, about 25 kilometres east. Most of the gold in Western Australia is just gold only, but Lefroy exploration have found this sort of unusual copper gold magnetite thing.
Yeah.
No one's really too sure yet what it is, but Burns and Dunia were both found by Western Mining in the same reconnaissance drill program in 1999, broad-spaced shallow drilling, weak anomalies back in '99, gold price 260, and so they didn't bother going back to sort of follow up these weak anomalies. Burns has turned into something, hasn't grown as quickly probably as they wanted to, but it's quite clearly a sizable system. We've got something that on paper is much bigger to start off with, so we're pretty excited about what we're seeing there.
So that's Lefroy, and they're chasing the magnetite, aren't they? They're using the mag as kind of an indicator because
that's right. That's correct.
Yeah. So the mineralization's on the fringes of the magnetite, they're on the flanks of the magnetic anomaly. Have you got a mag survey over the whole area, or is it just kind of Western Australian general data?
No, it is general. It's the regional data, but it's actually very good quality, and we've had it reprocessed. And we've got these sort of isolated magnetic anomalies. Most of the magnetic units in that part of WA, they're long linear things. They're part of the stratigraphy, the rocks that just comprise the belts that are there. Whereas these things are isolated, and there's a number of them. So it's a little cluster of possible porphyry type things that and there's a distinct zonation around it. It's got copper, zinc, nickel in the soils. It's got this gold bismuth thing. So it's quite a sizable system. And so we're going to be drilling that.
And have you spoken to Wade about this?
I haven't spoken to him specifically about our project, but managed to suck a whole lot of information out of Wade at the Diggers and Dealers about their project. So that was good.
Good. Okay, well, I'll check out with Wade, see what he thinks about that. I'll talk to Wade and see what he says.
And don't mention the fact that my exploration manager knocked over the RC chip tray that had his discovery hole in it on the counter.
This is going live. I'll make sure that Wade sees this.
It was like impacts in the house. We were only at his booth for about 5 minutes, and it was chaos because he had to go back and re-chip the box. So I still owe him a beer.
Okay, good. Well, so that's interesting. And so you're going to be drilling. Sorry, remind me, how many meters there?
It's about 3,000 meters. Yeah.
Over the next 3 months.
No. We hope to get it all done. If we can start by the end of this month, we should be done by Christmas, and which would be great. So the assays will be coming through into the new year.
And will that all be RC?
Yeah, that's going to be RC. Yeah. And then the other thing we're working heavily on here as well is our Arkan project, which is here in the wheat belt, not far from Perth, and sort of on one of the structures that trends up towards the recent and massive Julimar discovery of Chalice, and that's really an exciting project for us.
And is that to the south or to the east of Chalice or the Julimar?
Yeah, we are east, yes, so southeast, and I mean you can't really call it the Julimar Far East project. It's a little bit further away, but one of the reasons I picked that project, it was very clear there's a major, deep, fundamental structure that underlies Arkan that actually trends right up into that Julimar Yarrawinda sort of area where there's a number of companies have been very active. Obviously, Julimar is the giant out of all of them, but it's certainly there. And look, we staked that ground. I was a bit in two minds about whether to get it, but there were some regional geochem anomalies. not a single drill hole in there. And so we announced it to the ASX. I thought, oh, we'll do it. And then the same day, Anglo Americans staked 10,000 square kilometres around us. And it turns out they're part of a private research. They subscribe to a private research group who I'm familiar with that had actually determined that there is this major structure that goes through the Arkan project. And that's why Anglo was sort of very interested. It's quite clear they would have taken our ground if we hadn't have, beat them to the post there. So very exciting.
What work is going on there in the next 6 months, or was it just kind of quiet data accumulation and kind of?
No. So we've completed our initial soil sampling. So one of the issues in southwest WA in general is land access, because it's there's a lot of freehold land. And so we've got to negotiate access entry to the farmers. And at the moment, there's the crops are in up until Christmas, so access into the paddocks is quite difficult. But we were able to identify a number of targets through Arkan, did some soil sampling along the roads and gazetted tracks, and got some really quite spectacular results, considering that no work had been done there before. And so we identified some great targets for nickel copper PGE. And then also, by coincidence, some lithium and some rare earths, which just to be trendy. We've never really looked for those commodities ourselves, but nickel copper PG is our prime target. And I will say this: we've actually been working with a new technology, which I won't say anything about. And all the targets we had at Arkan were generated from this new geophysical technology, and we had a hit rate of 90%. So there's some big things coming on the stuff that we're working, and we've used that as a base to work on a lot more projects in WA, which we've staked and we'll be announcing, sort of going forward. So it's a pretty exciting time for us. So
tell me more about the new technology, please.
I'd like to, but I'd have to kill you. No, it's a very interesting set of system and processing, etc. But it's worked really well for us, so we've been very happy with the results.
And does it run off existing kind of kit?
I'd love to tell you more, but can't do it at this stage.
Okay, I'll have to get
time to move on.
Time to move on. Well, when are you going to get out of Western Australia? And when can we have a beer? And when can I learn about this over a beer?
Yeah. No, well, my mother lives just north of London. Haven't seen her for 2 years. So we heard today that we can. The borders will sort of open in February. I'm fully vaccinated, so the minute it's open, I'll be over, and we can certainly have that beer.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. It's been really interesting. Let's wrap it up there. I look forward to talking to you again another time.
That's great. Thanks, Merlin. Take care.
Thanks. Cheers.